Hey, it's your favorite flowgrammer Max, and it's literally snowing sideways right now. Let's kick off the first episode of 2025 with some studio project updates from myself and Angel. On my side, I'm working on part 3 of the Building AI Agents tutorial series. This third part is on prompt engineering, and specifically prompt engineering for AI agents. So there's definitely some different guidance when you're working with AI agents, building your prompts versus just vanilla LLMs. So I organize it into 3 different sections, basically: the system layer, the input layer, and the action layer. These are all the different places where prompting can occur. It doesn't cover everything. What I really tried to do, I was doing hours of research over the break, is trying to figure out like what's most important for most use cases and what's information that will still be useful in 6 to 12 months, skills that you could take throughout your building in 2025 and through your millionaire years into 2026 and beyond. I aim for that to come out next week, but it is a meaty tutorial. It's probably the most in-depth thing I've done to date. Yeah, really gutting to have that out next week so we can pause the Building AI Agents tutorial series, get some feedback on it, and get into some other projects. On that note, one thing I really want to do this quarter is help some real teams solve some real problems. And when I was thinking which teams I could help, it hit me. There's a bunch of teams at n8n with real problems, and I'm going to help n8n's support team this quarter automate some of the pain points that they have using AI and automation. So we had a quick chat with the support team, and what we're going to do is have a listen to their problems and together basically do like a bit of a discovery on those problems, triage those issues, and basically come up with a list of things that we could do, pick one of those, scope that down, build it, ship it, iterate on it, and show you how a real department at a real company with real user data, so there's gonna be some stuff blurred out, but basically how we solve our real problems, and I'll upload those to the template libraries. Really looking forward to get going on that, and I'm meeting with n8n support team next week on that, so we'll probably have a little sneaky update next week. And then another big theme for Q1, perhaps even throughout 2025 for me, is going to be exploring fine-tuning, specifically the whole world of taking small open source models, taking equally small training data sets, like we're talking 30, 50, 100 examples, and then getting like non-trivial improvement on those small models. So a great example is Shadi Kopti. This is one of the folks I follow on LinkedIn. You know, you see all those memes that say like, LinkedIn's dead, LinkedIn's garbage, there's no value on there, it's only shilling. He is like an antidote to that, and I was fanboy liking every single one of his posts over the break. But basically, he did exactly that. He took 130 synthetic examples. So that means examples generated by an AI, but like a frontier AI, and then basically took that training data, trained his, I think it was a 3B Llama model, trained it out for 3 minutes on those examples and got like a 40% increase or something like that on some eval benchmark. So of course, benchmarks are not the same as the real tasks and whatnot, but I want to explore that because at a high level from my research so far, you basically got to get the data, be it synthetic or be it from your different systems, and it's pretty good at fetching data from systems and transforming it in the right format. You then got to use some libraries like PyTorch and stuff to perhaps run that training. Now, again, n8n can do that. If run locally, it can run shell scripts. So we can kind of automate that and get all the different arguments and stuff for all those calls, complicated calls, a bunch of stuff that most people don't know about, and get some decent presets for those and pre-inject those. Then we need to interact with some APIs to upload it to somewhere we can deploy it. Lots of cloud providers now allowing you to upload, model files and that kind of thing. So I got to figure out all the details, the model file names, the process, what all these presets are. Probably going to try and work with some experts on this kind of stuff, because my job is basically translate that stuff, roll it up, and make it understandable. But in any case, we're going to be looking at fine-tuning, and we're going to be exploring, can n8n be used to orchestrate your whole fine-tuning pipeline? I don't know if I used enough industry terms there. I think I did. And if so, we can then, basically in the community, you can take that general template and make your own connectors. And what I envision you could do with something like that, if I'm successful, is, for example, have a new model each week that goes out for each of your customer support people in their voice. Now, perhaps that is indeed overkill, but I want you to be able to make that decision, and I want it to be in your power to be able to fine-tune a model that takes 4 gigabytes of RAM to run and $3 to train. I want you to be able to make those calls. Now, some people have expressed fear of me getting run over, so look, I'm crossing, I'm checking. Good. All right, what's next? So since I'm dealing with pretty Dickensian weather over here, let's head over to Arizona and check in with Angel Menendez.
Hey Max, hope you're doing well. So first of all, I wanted to share some progress on my MITRE ATT&CK project. As your viewers may know, this is something I've been working on for a month or two now. Unfortunately, I've been running into delay after delay, but thankfully, I've finally started making some progress. Let's talk a little bit about what we've done. One of the biggest issues I had is that the MITRE ATT&CK JSON file that I was working with was just too big. It was about 40 megabytes. Even n8n had trouble parsing such a giant document. So I finally made progress by utilizing ChatGPT to generate a Python script that enabled me to just extract the parts of the document that I cared about, reducing it from about 40 megabytes in size down to about 3. So that size difference made it much easier to interact with in n8n, parse it, and then from there, I was able to send it into an n8n workflow and map it into Quadrant, one of our partners in terms of vector store. So from there, what I was able to do essentially is extract the relevant parts of MITRE that allowed us to then map those into a vector database. So I'm really excited to share what that database looks like. There's some really cool visualizations within Quadrant that allow you to see the database in a 2D space as little points. And those points represent how distant the different keywords or objects are to one another, which is really cool to see in a MITRE kind of framework. So from there, what we're going to do next, as part of hopefully our next studio update, I'm going to be then connecting that vector store to an AI agent. As we had talked last time, MITRE ATT&CK is like a catalog of different attacks that a hacker might use to penetrate an enterprise organization's defenses. By mapping these different forms of attacks, this catalog, into a vector store, what we can do is provide an AI agent with all of those attacks in the form of a vector store for it to query every time a question comes in related to a cybersecurity incident. So from there, you're able to then get information such as what kind of attack it is and different ways to mitigate that attack, essentially allowing you to automate a lot of the ticketing process that you might have internally to help your IT or cybersecurity teams essentially mitigate these attacks much faster because you know what you need to do to take care of that attack. You don't have to do that level of research in advance. So something really cool, something I'm very excited to share. So one of the other things that I wanted to share is on January 22nd, we're going to be hosting a webinar partnering up with VoiceFlow, a leader in AI customer support agent technology. It's a wonderful software that allows you to take in voice calls in real time and connect that to n8n to essentially take care of some of the external API connections, but process a lot of the voice AI portions on their platform. So I'm really excited to partner up with them. We're going to be demoing some use cases. We're going to be showing how those use cases are run, and hopefully our viewers will get some benefit out of that. So another thing I wanted to share is that I've been releasing more workflows for n8n for our users to download for free. Things mostly aimed at IT operations or cybersecurity customers. So things like analyzing email headers within n8n, suspicious email analysis using ChatGPT Vision, things like analyzing suspicious email content using ChatGPT itself, and even some new workflows working with ServiceNow. So if you're using ServiceNow as part of your internal flows, I think you're going to want to check out some of these workflows. So I hope that gets you all excited for what's coming up. I'm really excited on my end. This is going to be a fantastic year. I can't wait to show you all the things we've been working on internally here. And I wanted to do this video outside, but it is freezing here in the desert. It is 32 American degrees here. So it is ridiculously cold for us. I am definitely not going outside right now. Hopefully our next video, I can have some nice footage of the lovely Arizona desert. So back to you, Max. Hope you had a great holiday.
Hi, thanks for that one, Angel. So for this next bit, I had the privilege of talking with Anthony Lee, who is an automation consultant that was using Make.com. Well, that is until he found n8n. Now, there's a lot of different ways that one could record how I switched from a competitive video, and there's also plenty of marketing out in the world right now. I don't think we need more. So what I did instead is I got on the phone with him. I said, forget how you think this kind of content should be done, and just give me like a raw, candid, what you liked, what you didn't, what sucked, and we'll edit it down and keep the bits that make n8n not look perfect too, and show it to the people and have them all make their own opinion. So I don't know, Luis, you might not like this, but he says a lot of nice things about n8n and one or two things that he misses about Make, which we should probably make better. Chickadee, check this one out. Hey Anthony, how's it going?
It is fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing really well on this bright and early Monday. Thanks so much for joining the call. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. You were one of these people, Anthony, where, I was seeing some of your posts on LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn, there can be a lot of people shilling their thing. It makes sense. But you were one of these people who was like, wow, that's really interesting. I'm clicking that show more button. And so I wanted to bring you on the show to hear a bit more about your automation experience. And in particular, I heard that you've been making a bit of a switch from Make to n8n. But before we get into all that, would you mind introducing yourself, everyone?
Absolutely. All right. So my name is Anthony Lee. My background is versatile. I came from the e-commerce space and then moved into automation, which I was actually automating things before AI became generally commercially available. So as soon as that happened, it was a very natural. And that's now what I do, build these AI powered robots, for lack of a better term.
And are you focused on ecom for your AI automations?
I do a lot of work in ecom because that's where my network is,
Mhm.
but definitely ventured out of there because, as you know, automation touches everything. Everybody has a finance department that does way too much copy and pasting.
That's for
Everybody
sure.
has, content creation desires, and every single industry can use these things. So I haven't focused.
Makes a lot of sense. And so I heard that you were a big user of make.com as part of your automation work, and you're using n8n more and more now. Could you walk me through some of the reasons why you started looking for other tools beyond Make?
Absolutely. So I actually have a very long history with Make. I was using it back when it was Integromat. And at the time, that was honestly, it was a budget decision. It was just a lot less expensive than Zapier. So that's where I started. And the platform did grow, and there was a bunch of desirable things about it, and it got better. So I stuck with it. But ultimately, what happened was I started running into a lot of limitations.
Okay.
So little things, right? For starters, now that we have access to AI, pretty much everybody can run code functions, right? Functions are just little snippets. You don't have to write a whole program. You just needed to do this one thing. And it's so simple. But Make didn't at the time. And now it kind of does, but still not very simple, not very easy to implement, run code. And that was the biggest wall I kept running into. Like, hey, I have to do this thing that's not a native function, and that makes sense, but I can't even code it in there.
Hmm.
And then another one, which was really big for me, was you can't loop; it's all linear.
Hmm.
So I started reading up on n8n, and to be perfectly honest, I wanted to move over a long time ago.
Okay.
But the reason I didn't was because a lot of the documentation for n8n is intimidating. It looks complicated. You can do the cloud version, but really everybody does it local, and then you have to, you know,
Mm.
open up an environment window, and you have to put in this, even though it's literally copy and paste one line and then click enter. But at
Yeah,
the
it
time, I didn't know
looks
that.
intimidating, right? Okay, I got you. Yeah.
So, and if you read any of the forums, they talk about how, oh, you really want to do this in Docker, and they don't talk as much about npm, which is arguably simpler, but both of them are really simple. So it took me a while, but finally I was like, no, I'm going to do this because I really have needs for being able to implement code functions and being able to loop. Those were the two biggest ones. And then I started playing around, and it was just, man, it's so powerful because I can do everything that I need to do. Even if there's a node in n8n, which, and it's a lot of nodes that do a lot of great things. But even if there's aren't nodes for something I need to do, just write a, have Claude write a JavaScript function, and it does it. It parses everything, puts it where it needs to go, runs it as many times as it needs to run. And I haven't been able to look back since.
What was like that first aha moment where you're like, okay, you got over the maybe scary looking docs and you got in there? What was that first moment? You're like, wow, this is powerful. This is looking like something I want to explore more.
I think the biggest aha moment for me was I was working on this huge workflow in Make to build content using AI. And the problem was is it was very rigid because, again, it's all linear. So it's like, all right, the outline always has to be this long. And it always has to be separated in these sections. And I didn't like that rigidity. So one of the first things I worked on doing inside of n8n was I just want to see how I would do this, real simple loop function. And that way, the AI could write whatever was natural. And it's weird to use that word with AI, but whatever, like, however, whatever the length of the outline needs to be, and then it could generate each piece. And when I did that, and it worked, and it was like this particular topic happened to generate 12 sections. It was a huge article.
Hmm.
I was like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, like I can literally have this system combined with AI create all the content that I want. And that was like the beginning. And then from there, I've done a million other things.
Gotcha. How many workflows around do you have like running right now?
Well, so my own environment, I only have about, I don't know, 25 or 30, and only 5 of them probably at any given time are in use. So I have one client, I think we run like 15 different workflows because I built an entire system for them. And all of the flows are big, but you don't want them to get too big. So it's like, all
Sure.
right, this one triggers this one, triggers this one. So it's huge. All total, probably about 35
Okay.
running.
This is a meaty chunk of flows. How long have you been in the n8n community around?
Oh gosh, it's probably only about 6 or 7, maybe 8 months now.
Okay, wow, that's a good velocity there. I haven't used Make that much myself. One thing I do hear from people is sometimes on the sort of cost comparison between running their workflows. Can I get a handle from you on that? Like, did you notice any sort of costing differences switching to n8n from Make?
I mean, yeah, I run it local.
Ah,
So
okay.
the
So
biggest I don't have the monthly fee, but also, so what was interesting was n8n was the reason why I downloaded Node.js on my computer and started using npm.
Mhm.
And because it was so simple, right? Like literally copy this line of code, paste it here, click enter. I was like, I can do this with other stuff. So because of n8n, I started using other open source softwares that integrate with n8n. So I don't pay for, NoCodeDB, MongoDB. There's a bunch. And it's just like, it's all on my computer now. AppSmith, like one of different things. So that has significantly reduced the cost of running. To be fair, it is easier when you don't get to sit at the computer, work in the cloud. So my clients all have cloud instances. Those community
Mhm.
nodes can come in. There's some people
Okay,
building some
interesting.
cool
So
stuff.
you've gone into the community nodes. Tell me about that experience. What have Oh, by the way, so for anyone watching, community nodes is user submitted nodes that the communities submitted that you can download and run. I'm curious, Anthony, what are those nodes that you're like, oh my god, I needed that. Pop it in, and it got your
Okay.
job done.
So the biggest one that I use all the time is global constants, right? Because
Okay.
you need to be on enterprise if you want to have global variables. But constants allows me, because I have a handful of and blah, 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 blah. It's a pretty long list, but I
Mhm.
need them for everything. So global
Mhm.
constants has been the biggest one. And then there's a couple of little other ones that just like transform text, but I'm finding new ones all the time. I'm like, "Ah, great. Now I don't have to write a function for that." So
So Anthony, firstly, thanks for all the amazing feedback. Obviously, as you can imagine, as someone who worked at n8n for as long as I have, it's a pleasure to hear all this nice stuff. But I'm curious, like, if you had one magic wish to make n8n the perfect automation tool, big effort, small effort, doesn't matter. If you could wave that wand, what would you change?
oh man, that's actually a really good question. I mean, at this point, I don't know if I'm still in a honeymoon phase with it or not, but it's awesome. I would say, okay, so one of the challenges I've run into is extraordinarily not user friendly for a non-coder to connect meta products, right? So for example, in make.com, if you want to connect your Instagram for business, it's the, single sign-on window. You go in
Mhm.
and you're in. But I just recently went through this incredibly arduous process with n8n where I had to go and I had to create an app and I had to do like a ton of very technical stuff. I would change that. Like that would be great if
Okay.
the social media stuff was just a little bit easier
To
to
connect that.
integrate.
Okay, so this is like dealing with the auth layer and then having to create like a client ID and secret and app and your own auth. Makes sense. Makes sense. So
Yeah.
thank you for that feedback, Anthony. I'm going to make sure that it gets to the product team at n8n. So I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So Anthony, if people want to follow along your automation journey or see the kinds of things you're building, where can they do that?
I definitely would point people to LinkedIn. That's where all of my social media focus is right now. You could see everything that I'm doing because I pretty much share anything that I build on there. 2025, I actually do plan on making n8n templates available through my website, ai+automation.com, which of those links and everything for AI plus automation is also on my LinkedIn.
Cool. And then there'll be a link wherever you're watching this is going to be linked somewhere to Anthony's stuff somewhere here. Anthony, really appreciate your time sharing your experience switching from Make to n8n. I think it carries a lot more weight when it comes from someone that actually did it versus someone who like works at n8n. And I really appreciate also the constructive feedback on things that were easier to do in Make, because again, I want to make sure that in this year we make that also easier for all of our users. Good luck in all the AI automation building efforts this year. I think there's so much cool new tech came out even just over Christmas. I'm still catching up, but I'm really excited to build this year.
Definitely.
And once you've uploaded some of those cool templates you're talking about, I'd love to have you back on the show.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Fantastic. Well, have a great start to your week, Anthony.
Absolutely. You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Cheers.
And then there's the kind of awkward pause. So I'm going to Anthony, thanks so much for your time again. And I've already gotten that feedback off to our cloud team. And we're going to see what we can do about making auth easier on the few apps that we haven't covered yet with that sexy click to connect experience. All right, everyone, that's all for this week. What I'm doing the next 2 weeks is front loading a lot of interviews. So we got some nice wiggle room there. I'm finding a video editor so I have more time to build. So hopefully next week you'll also see more stuff happening. And I'm working on the Building AI Agents Part 3, which is prompt engineering for AI agents, or rather for agentic systems. So keep your ears peeled for that one. Ears peeled. Keep your eyes peeled for that one. And what's my sign off? In any case, I'm Max, your happy resident flowgrammer. And I can't feel my fingers anymore, so I'm gonna go. But have an amazing week, and we'll catch you next week for another studio update. Happy flowgramming, everyone.